Hello everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to have a look at a lovely setup that's recently unfolded on a 15-minute chart of crude oil. But first, let's look at our risk disclaimer and just remind you that all examples in these videos should be considered as hypothetical. No trades are actually taken, they're just shown for illustration and trading purposes only. Remind you there's a risk of loss in trading and investing. Put another way, all professional traders know and understand, but more importantly accept that losses can and will and do unfold. Right, this is a 15-minute chart of crude oil. The setup I'd like to look at is this TS3, W3 or Wave 3 trade setup. For those of you who are new to MTPredictor, we don't take all our setups blindly as if it's a black box system, perhaps in the direction of our MTP trend color. We don't do this because we know and understand that basic markets are random half the time. In other words, half the time you shouldn't be doing any kind of trading because the market pattern is in basically not a clear position. There's no cleared larger degree trend. So of course the question then is open, how do we then decide when the market picture is clear? For this we use the higher time frame. So if you're on a 15-minute chart, you'd go out to the hourly chart. If you say on a daily chart, you go out to the weekly. If you say trading a 3-minute E-mini, you'd go out to the 15-minute. So I just want to go back in time a bit, back to here, and show you what we do. Here's a previous low. We right mouse click, we do decision point. Can you see how that gave you an area of support? But more importantly, it's on the chart in advance. In other words, it's there before the market even got there. So what we're doing is we're saying, right, Mr. Market, here's a potential support zone. What are you going to do at it? We're not projecting the market is going to get there. We're just saying what will happen if it gets there. If I turn trading mode off, can you see what happened? The market did indeed get down to this level where it made a reversal. So this is when you look on the shorter time frame and you can see that the reversal came in absolutely beautifully. This then changes the picture to be clearer. In other words, the market is doing what we anticipate. So that deems that the larger trend is now up because it's coming in off higher time frame support. This is confirmed by our MTP trend color going from black to blue, the blue showing that the larger degree of trend is up. Therefore, you'll be looking for buy setups. If we look in here, can you see there was a little triangle just about here? Do you see that? That little triangle indicates there was a trade setup at the time. And you can place your analysis on this by hovering over the blue buy bar, which is here. We right mouse click, we do analysis, and that would have placed the analysis on the chart as if it happened at the time. In other words, this market would have then taken you in long. Remember, we use correct position sizing to risk less than 2% of a sample $20,000 account. That would have been going long 2 contracts, or you could trade on different size accounts if you wish. You can add those into the system. The market took you into a long position and then would have stopped you out. In other words, this was a losing trade. If you want to look a bit close on this, if we use our trading mode and I jump back to this area here, can you see there it is? There was your trade setup at the time. Again, let's place the analysis on. You can see that there. If I step forward 1 bar, you can see how you were taken in. I step forward another bar. Can you see how now the losing trade would have been identified and the history triangle would have been placed on your chart? In other words, we don't hide anything in MTPredictor. If there would have been a losing trade, there would have been filled on the bar after the trade setup bar. We place the history triangle on the chart to show you that. And as you've already seen, that allows you to then to place the analysis on the chart to see what would have happened at the time. Or you can use trading mode like this to go through it as you can see here. So there's your loss. We then go forward and here's our next trade setup. Again, a W3 trade setup. A W3 is a Wave 3 trade setup. We have looked at these in previous videos, of which you can go and have a look at just to remind yourself. But basically, this is where we start our 8-wave sequence at the higher time frame support. The initial move up would be wave 1. The initial correction down here would be wave 2. We're looking for this to subdivide into an ABC. We then look to, if I place the analysis on, we then look to trade the next wave, which we assume will be a wave 3. Because if this is wave 1, ABC correction into wave 2, we're then looking for the next wave to be wave 3. Typically the wave 3 is the strongest and longest in a completed 5-wave sequence and therefore has the largest profit potential in relation to the smallest initial risk. Here you can see at the typical wave 3 target, the potential profit would be 10 times the initial risk. In other words, if it gets there, the profit will be 10 times the loss you'd have just taken a few bars ago. If I turn trading mode off, you can see that's exactly what the market has done. It actually rallied up nice and strongly to hit that target where the profit of approximately 10R was available. There was a sell set up there, and obviously because the large degree trend was up off this higher time frame support zone, you'd then be ignoring that and you'd be looking to hold your long trade up into the typical wave 3 target. If we go out to the higher time frame chart as well, you can also place your higher time frame resistance on the chart. There was the last major high. We right mouse click and that can be on the chart as well. Remember, that could have been on the chart in advance, as we did with our previous one down there. So if I come back down to our 15-minute chart, can you see how that higher time frame resistance was also in the same area as the typical wave 3 WPT target as well? So the two were basically telling you the same thing. So I'll just clear that off just to keep the picture clear. So hopefully this has been a good example of our wave 3 trade setup that's just unfolded on a 15-minute chart of crude oil, and also how important it is to understand that losses can and will and do unfold. But the important thing is to keep these losses small. That's why that losing trade we saw there earlier would have been only -1R or 1 risk unit, and this profitable trade that's come through now has just come out at just over 10 times or 10R, 10 times the initial risk or 10 times the previous loss. This is what's important with trading, not a high percentage of winners, but when the losses come through, keep them small, and the profits come through, keep them large. Large not just in dollars, but large in relation to the initial risk or losses that also come through when trading. Hopefully this has been a good example of our W3 or wave 3 trade setup that's just unfolded on a 15-minute chart of gold using 60-minute with the higher time frame support.